Hello, everyone. Welcome to another amazing episode of the Brave Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Jena Rodriguez, and I am your business and brave strategist. I'm committed to helping entrepreneurs worldwide truly unleash their fullest potential and help them speak up and then scale their businesses to new heights. So I'm so excited again to have our guest, my friend and I'm tongue-tied, and client, Deborah Whitby, and I'm so excited to feature her. So before I do that, just remember, if you really get some value out of this and find some great takeaways, please give us feedback, give us an iTunes review, or also comment below the video. We would love to hear from you. It always makes it, certainly a positive day and positive thing in our day to hear from you. So don't forget to leave us a comment. So before we get started, I just also want to say thank you for being a part of this movement. We are in our fourth year and about to celebrate our anniversary here shortly. So thank you again. You are making this a better place to be. So thank you so much. And now let's introduce Deborah. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so tell everybody a little bit about you and also where are you calling in from, which is always fun to hear.
Yeah, I'm calling in from Austin, Texas, so not too far from you.
Right.
And my name is Deborah Whitby. I am the owner of a local plumbing company here in Austin. It's called Austin Plumbery. And before that, I was previously a high school teacher. And then I left that career to go into entrepreneurship. And I meddled in a couple of different businesses. And then my father is a plumber. So I ultimately took what he had kind of created for himself as a one-man truck, and put a brand behind it, put a business model behind it, and we've scaled that company. It's been, in a couple of months, it'll be 3 years. So awesome. We've been doing that for a little under 3 years, yeah. And so now it's my husband's involved, my sister, so we have other employees. So it's mostly a family business now. And now that I have the staff and the leverage that I put, behind the plumbing company, I'm now able to go back to kind of what I say, like my first love of teaching and numbers. And I'm a financial coach for women entrepreneurs that have established businesses. And I coach them through, guide them through how to become more profitable, how to mind their money, manage what they're making, and keep more of what they're making.
Yeah.
So, that's my new focus right now.
Yeah, I love that. No, and I think that's what's powerful about what entrepreneurship really is. For me, it's been certainly to teach what I've learned, right? It's like we put ourselves out there in a business or in in an environment that certainly isn't a high school, or certainly isn't, for me, it was corporate America, or some working for someone else. And then we step into this arena where we have to wear many different hats and we have to figure a lot out, and we find what's really, our genius. And then you get to now mentor others to do the same, which I think is really cool. So, so let's go back to like that, what I call that spark of curiosity. When you're teaching, high school, you were teaching math. Is that correct?
I was teaching English at that time.
Oh, English.
So I was teaching English. I did get my minor in math to teach math, but at that time I was teaching English. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they needed. And so when did you have that spark of curiosity, or that thing that started to move you down the road towards, entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think that it was kind of a combination. I mean, there wasn't one distinct thing. I think it was, a combination of getting closer to 30, turning 30, and just kind of, starting to reevaluate, is this kind of where I want to see myself long-term? And then it was the financial aspect of it. I have, now, but even then I had just kind of an idea that I always wanted to be wealthy. So
sure.
There was just some serious thoughts around, can a teaching career, literally provide that kind of lifestyle, Yeah. So there was the financial aspect of it that kind of, and then having my son was kind of, I think, the ultimate catalyst that kind of pushed me towards needing more freedom, more money again. And and then just starting to think about what kind of lifestyle do I want to model for him, and how available do I want to be. So it was kind of a series of things, but I think there's always been something in me that's kind of was not okay with settling for kind of the good enough,
Yeah.
and that was in my community, my culture that I grew up in. It was kind of like that. Like we were always okay. We've always done okay, good enough,
Right.
So I've noticed, and now as I've aged a little bit more, I've noticed that that's kind of a consistent theme that's been in my life of being surrounded by people that have like kind of settled for the good enough.
Yeah.
So, but that always was like unsettling for me. And before I had the words to articulate that, I wasn't sure why things were uncomfortable, why I wasn't satisfied, why I wasn't content where I was,
Yeah.
whether it was like in relationships that I had or now in my career. And I didn't know that it was like, oh, I'm not the person who necessarily had the lemonade stand when they were little. And I've always known I was for entrepreneur, so it's not like I knew that I was just born for entrepreneurship. But there was definitely a nagging there that was kind of like, why am I not content? And so just starting to explore, giving myself permission to explore that in spite of the fact that everything around me was okay. And I had no reason to really try to shift things,
Yes.
Yeah. So then I kind of,
We were just talking about this.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, yes, girl. So around that time, I think that's when I kind of gave myself permission to explore, like start to look at different people, what they were doing, like not really knowing, but just, again, back to that spark, not only feeling it, but then leaning into what that spark would lead to and listening to it,
Yeah. Yeah. So for those listening, I think this can certainly resonate with people. It's like it's certainly from a logistical or a, kind of a reality check. If you're in a career and you love it, great. And you want to create wealth, you believe you have the ability and the desire to have more, and you have a career that's got a cap that, it's not necessarily going to provide that, then you either have to find another revenue stream or another way to build wealth and keep teaching and keep doing the thing that you're doing that may not have that capacity, or completely change it up in some way, and it's like, I think a lot of us do hang out in complacency and comfort zones, and, and it's like, okay, it's good enough, why shake it up? Why, create something more? But if anyone listening, and of course you and I both have taken those leaps of faith, then, it's like, I think the message is powerful that people need to give themselves permission to actually want more, because that's the spark of curiosity or spark of inspiration that occurs, and then we ignore it or we shut it down and go, oh no, that's too much.
Right.
So how did you navigate the actual change?
I think
fears?
Right. Because I think, and that's exactly the right question, is that I think people think that in order to make a change, to listen to that spark of curiosity or to, whatever requires this like blowing up of your life, and sometimes like it does. Sometimes you have to get up and move cities, like, that's extreme. That's a, over here. Right. But mostly it's not that, it doesn't mean that you have to get divorced tomorrow, or your teaching career. For me, the first step wasn't leaving my teaching career. I thought, well, how can I advance in the education field? So I actually re-enrolled in, enrolled in a master's program to get my master's. Gotcha. So that I could go into educational administration, because I was like, well, there's more money to be made, So it's kind of like you said, looking for maybe the next best path without completely leaving education altogether, right?
Yes.
So I think that the misconception is that you have to do these massive shifts and massive changes just to have change. And truthfully, that's not the case for everybody. It's just small. So how I went about that was I didn't just put my 2 weeks notice into my career that I knew I'd wanted since I was like in second grade, Instead, I looked at other options in the field, like other options within the industry for advancement is the equivalent of someone who's like in the 9 to 5, right? And then when that didn't work, we always hear like, oh, well, follow your passion, the money will follow, right? So I'm like, okay, well, let's try that. So I was passionate about like clothes, right? Like fashion and like eyelash extensions, which I'm actually giving mine a break, but it's neither here nor there. But so I was like, oh, this is obvious. I need to own a fashion boutique, and this is obvious. I need to open like a salon where I'm doing like eyelash extensions, right?
Yeah.
So, and maybe somebody enjoys baking, maybe, whatever, I don't know. Right. But the point is like, I did it. Like I actually went and I didn't open a boutique, but I went and bought like how to open a boutique 101. And then I started going to boutiques with instead of just shopping, right? I went to look like, okay, how are they getting their distributors? Like, this is a whole new world, right? So,
yes.
And the more that I started like looking at their packaging and I kind of started to get aware of what it could potentially take, and then small research on the back end. And I'm just like, no. Like I am made to shop, not to open a retail store. So I was like, okay, there goes that idea. And then I tried the lashes. I bought the stuff, tried them on my sister a few times, and it was just like, this is not working, And that's not to say someone could probably say, well, you didn't give it enough time. You should have given it enough time.
Yeah.
But I think we know, right? We know instinctively, like, this is not just dabble in a whole bunch of things and don't give anything time to stick. It wasn't that. Like I did give it time. But I just knew like, no. And so, this was all like and I was still teaching. So this is me like just trying things out. And then I actually changed my job. I did quit teaching and I actually became the principal secretary because I was like, maybe I just need more flexibility. And if I'm in an office, then I can, when I have my son, I'm free to call the doctor. So my point is for the audience is it's not this, left and then complete pivot, right? Like I took steps in between before I got to the hard pivot. And so when I was working as his secretary, that did give me flexibility. I did that. My son was already born. I was still doing that. But then I started looking at my love of numbers and my skill set. Mm-hmm. So I started bookkeeping. I started doing bookkeeping for small businesses, personal finance workshops for the people in my church, whatever. I was just like all things numbers, budgeting, blah, 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 putting, tips on Facebook, trying to get, just whatever, like, let's try this, I love numbers and that worked. And I think what was, I want to say partly confusing about that was that it gained traction really quickly. And I got like small businesses to give me their business. I was there. Yeah. And people were loving the personal finance 101. They were attending the workshops, co-working spots, wanted me to go do the workshops, blah, blah, blah. But back to my initial value of building wealth, that was not conducive to that either, So it was flexible, but it wasn't, if you guys have bookkeepers, you don't pay bookkeepers very much money, right? So
it's hour by hour usually too.
Yeah, and I'm not an accountant, so it's not like I'm charging like CPA rates, right? So I was kind of like back to that same dilemma, like, great, I love what I do, I love money, but I'm not getting rich. So then that's when, my husband was like, well, your dad's a plumber. Why don't you do, his invoices and stuff like that? So then it became, now let's listen to the voice of opportunity. Mm-hmm. So it came back to, if somebody else were in my position, took over my body, is what I would think to myself. If somebody came and just dipped into Deborah's body, what would that person who had no prejudices, no fears, they just had to start running as Deborah, what would they do? They would say, okay, your dad's a plumber. They would start assessing the opportunities. So I think that's the next level, is starting to assess the opportunities that are just given to us. They're like my grandpa says, they're the acorns. All of us are looking for like the oak tree, right? What's the big flashing oak tree? The big business is going to get me rich or whatever, right? When we're surrounded by acorns,
Yes, love that.
So, and the acorn for me was the fact that my father was a plumber. So, and he's been a plumber forever, like forever, as long as I can remember. So that acorn was there, but I'm over here looking for the oak trees, right?
Yes, right.
And so, and I told my husband, I'm like, I'm not going to leave my career, either as a teacher or here at the school in general, to, just help my dad part-time with his invoices or something. So there was a conversation around that where I started talking to my dad, what would that look like? This is what I would want it to look like. If I'm going to do this, this is not like a part-time gig for me. This is like, at that point I needed the hard pivot,
Yes.
And so I'm like, I'm going to need to take only a certain amount of money from you. We had our agreement where I only took a certain amount of money out of the business. I mean, it's literally $500. And because I knew that I didn't want to have his customer base, because it's a different mentality when you're working with a one-on-one, your plumber, Joe the plumber, his name is literally Joe. When you're working with Joe the plumber is different than you're hiring Austin Plumbery, the company, right? It's a different experience. It's a different expectation. So I didn't want, I wanted to create a business not based on I wasn't trying to reteach his customer behavior, I guess.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
So anyway, that was the progression of how I got to
I mean, I really love this because I think it's correct. People are, and I've done this. I mean, heck, I've jumped out of corporate America, bought the oak tree I did buy a boutique and unfortunately, like, all the acorns fell off and I had to close the boutique and all that. But, and I realized in the process of having the boutique, there was a value found, and the value that I had that I didn't realize I had was freedom of location, meaning I could go anywhere and have business work, right? And so having a storefront kind of ties you down a little bit. So what I'm hearing, though, and why I shared that also, is that there is a correlation between following the acorns or just always looking for the big oak tree. And then you can't even, I mean, obviously if there's acorns, there's oak trees somewhere, right? Nearby. And so I think that makes such a good point, is that when you get the spark of inspiration and spark of curiosity, is to follow it and then explore it. And not every idea is going to be the one. And so you played with it, you tested it, you did some bookkeeping. I think that's brilliant for people where they know they want more, but they don't know how to completely disrupt their life. And then they build their brave. You built your brave inside of following the acorns and just seeing where they lead and what's next, or what you're like. I mean, do the due diligence. I think it was brilliant that you're like, okay, I love shopping. What you love to do doesn't necessarily become who you be.
Right.
Sure. Like, now I'm not a retail owner. I'm just going to be a shopper. But sometimes it is the oak tree. Sometimes the thing that you love and you have a passion for, in hobby or whatever, can be something of an opportunity. But I think people so often are just always looking for the big deal instead of like taking all the baby steps and following the acorn so that they can ultimately find something that really is established and the test of time, et cetera. And so here you are in this, obviously owner and, of this multi-six-figure plumbing company, plumbing brand, really, which I think you've done brilliantly at, is building it to be a conversation and a kind of a voice for something that's typically seen as, it's just a house service. It's like something that, we need, we have problems and somebody comes and solves it and they bring their truck and that's it. But you've really, brought family and really elevated what your father was already doing and came together in an opportunity that has really started to support you guys at a whole different level. And so when you moved yourself into the mentorship, do you just consider that one more acorn?
Yes. I know that the financial coaching, because there again, and that's what I'm saying. It's like this constant, being brave is kind of like this constant thing that just never ends. You do it and then you get through it and then something else comes up and you got to brave your way through that. And so that's what I was doing as I'm saying it, I'm the one who once again was looking for the big oak tree. For like a personal brand and, I want to be the like next woman, Tony Robbins, and, and so it's like, there's these like big things that we start to look at. And I did that too, but I'm like, okay, and working with you also, it's like, okay, what is the trail to get there? What are the stepping stones to get there? Because that's the end result. And so it's kind of like, so yeah, I think that's why I figured that financial coaching, I mean, I love it, right? I love money, I love numbers, and I love inspiring people. And I believe that money is at the nucleus of every decision that we make, not only in our personal lives, but obviously in our businesses. So, what I'm truly passionate about is for everyone to live, their best life, like to be fully engaged in their life, right? I've said it before. I remember when I was like 14 talking at church, and I remember saying, like, because my parents were going through something, I remember like speaking to them, and I'm like wanted to shake them, and I'm like, wake up. Like, you guys are living on the sidelines, and it's like, we're meant to play in the game of life. Right.
Yes.
So, and I feel like for a lot of people, they don't feel like they're able to do that, whatever that looks like for them. Maybe it means just a promotion in their job. Maybe it means leaving their job, traveling, whatever, all these things that people want to do. They don't do that because of money. Right. And it boils down to from something so simple as, I want to be healthy. Okay, but I don't need organic because it's $5 more per fruit that I'm buying, And so it's like all these like critical decisions that ultimately lead to us living our best life are put on the back burner because, people don't have their finances in order.
Right.
So it's all kind of intertwined. And so if ultimately I want people to be living their best lives and I want to be the girl Tony Robbins, well, maybe the first step is stepping into what I believe about money and getting people to do it in that way.
Yeah, I love that, actually. I mean, I think it's important that we have the big vision because that's the pull. Mm-hmm. That's the, and yet it's also like, what's the inspired next action? Yeah. And therefore that's what you do next. And then it can lead to the ultimate vision that you have. So, so the question I have now is in all of this. I mean, you obviously, like you said, you're coming up to your third year anniversary, and so it's still a young company. And through all of it, though, regardless of what you're doing, what's been the hardest part of it?
I think the hardest part of everything that I've been doing is to kind of consistently have faith that I'll figure it out. So I think I do well with starting small. So one thing I would tell people is like, start small, right? Don't feel like you have to disrupt your entire life just to make significant change. Like, start small with little things, and create margin in your life with your finances, time, little things like that. So that those good things that you're seeking can start to seep in, make their way into your life. So I think I do well with opening up space and letting things come in and starting small. But I think the hardest thing is to consistently at every new level, have faith that I will figure it out, that have trust that I'm going to figure it out at every new point, Yeah. So it's kind of this constant mind game that okay, I haven't faced this. Technically, I've never literally faced this situation before, but I mean, I faced a lot of situations before in the past, and I just put one foot in front of the other and Google it and figure it out,
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's the hardest part, is just consistent without getting into specific. There's specifically hard things about maintaining employee retention. There's very specific things.
Yeah. Challenges.
That come up. But as an entrepreneur overall, I think it's kind of that consistently having faith in yourself.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny because I've created a new hashtag or phrase or something. I'm gonna have to get a t-shirt made. It's called gut and faith. And so it's following your gut and listening to your gut at the same time, following it in faith. And following it, knowing that it'll lead you in the right direction. And so if you've got the gut and the faith, then that's truly a brave master. It's saying yes without the evidence. It's saying I can do this. And, and despite the fears or the doubts or the shallow voice that we hear, and stepping forward in gut and faith. So And I of course know you and observe that that's what you do overall. And it's like, and it will lead you in the right direction if you just stay the course. So congratulations on that for sure. I think the other thing I wanted to know is that when you look forward, you've got a toddler, right? He's 4?
And he's 5. He'll be 6 soon.
He just keeps getting 1 year older. You've got your family business and you've got, the coaching that you're doing and all of that. It's like, when you look forward, what is that next brave thing that you know that you might have to face that will take some gut and faith? Like, what's next for you?
I think like the expansion of the plumbing company, I guess I see it two-sided. When it comes to the plumbing company, the next brave thing is having faith. Again, it goes back to that kind of having faith in our capacity and our ability to step out. I mean, there's some large like government contracts and things like that we could. And then there's that constant fear, like, can we take this on? Do we know what we're getting ourselves into? Can we afford all the inventory? So it's just the next brave thing for me is just, and it's something I'm already kind of working on, and it's more of a mindset. In that area, it's more of a mindset that's going to brave mindset there, that like a shift there, that we will figure it out as a company. We have the capacity to bring it on, and the right people will come in when they need to come in. The finances will work themselves, all that stuff. And as for like the financial coaching, I think like the next brave thing for me is, and it's every day. It's not like this one big thing, but it's just showing up consistently every day in that space. And so every day it's easy to get, bogged down in whatever other to-do things I'm doing that are important too. And then at the end of the day, knowing I didn't make a single, potential connection. I didn't go to a networking event. I didn't do anything that entire day. So being brave in that area to me just is like consistently showing up every single day, Yeah. And that goes back to connecting to your why. Why are you doing this and stuff like that? That helps you stay, brave and
for sure. Yeah, I love that, and I think it's the message that people need to hear is that this is a practice. Being brave, being an entrepreneur, being human for that matter is a practice. And the more we can master our mindfulness and our mindset and our brave and our ability to like frame our personal narratives and conversations in our mind, is what will serve us in actually accomplishing bigger and better things. And, you've got the big visions, like many people out there, they have these big visions, they're inspired in some way, and yet they won't even take that first step. And it's like, just follow the acorns, as you call them. I call them breadcrumbs. And because you never know what that next conversation might be, or what it'll lead to. Yeah. And lean on people that already believe that you already are, like, I know you can handle the company and the growth and the expansion. And it's completely normal to have the conversation and the doubts going, can we do this? Can we, will the money be there? Will the people be there? Like, that's normal. Because we are evidence-seeking beings. We want to be safe, so certainty and evidence makes us feel safer. And yet it's inside of the uncertainty that actually growth occurs. So, there you have it. So
I mean, as CEOs, we have a lot of responsibility. So there's, there's a lot of not the burden, but I mean, it's on our shoulders to make sure that what decisions we're making aren't going to sink the company, are going to make sure we can still afford payroll. And you know what I mean? So it's a legitimate fear, I guess you could say. But that's where but you're also an entrepreneur because you step outside of fear, right? So it's kind of like, so I always like remind myself, I'm like, okay, yes, this is a legitimate fear. There's legitimately only this much money in the bank. There's legitimately this much work and not enough. You know what I mean? These are like real concerns, real life concerns, right? But then I'm like, but you were born for this. Like, if anybody can do it, right? It's like, so, and that's the same is true for you in the audience. Is like, you're an entrepreneur by choice for a reason, because you were made for this. You have the blood for this, right? So, learning to, and then it quickly becomes excitement, right? It's like, what is that saying that like fear, the only difference between fear and excitement is breathing. So it's kind of like when you're
Exactly. I wrote that one.
For sure I did. But the bottom line is
I've said that one too. I probably annihilated it.
yeah, it's just basically like I imagine it like fear. When you come across something, it's like you're literally like, we're literally like
holding your breath.
Yeah. So but then when you breathe into it and literally like physically release the breath, and you're like, yes. And then that's when the excitement can start to come in. But this is going to be good. But this is, you know what I mean? And so, and I feel like that's, as entrepreneurs, that's what we're good at, is recognizing the fear, because we're logistical beings, but then, breathing into the excitement. So. Yeah.
I love that. And I 100% agree. And every time I have felt excitement and fear at the same time, it's been like what's necessary for my growth. So like what's next, and leaning into it. And, when you feel like it's the right thing, and sometimes, and then you get to make a new decision if it becomes not the right thing, or the next pivot needs to occur, or the next acorn shows up, what have you. But it's like when we stay I always say brave is about getting off the fence. You have to have that spark of curiosity, but then you can't sit in indecision either. So get off the fence, either say yes or no, but do one or the other, and lean into it. And if it is exciting, then lean into it, because who knows what's possible on the other side, right? Mm-hmm. So I love it. And I love that you have the gut and faith to do what you're doing. And so stay the course. And so I know our time is up, but I want to just make sure everybody can connect with you and experience what you have created and what you're out there helping people with. So what's the best way to do that?
Well, if you happen to be in Austin, Texas, the plumbing company's name is Austin Plumbery. That's plumber with the Y at the end. So austinplumbery.com. And to connect with me personally on my site at Deborah Whitby, DeBorah, and my last name is Whitby, WHITBY.com, DeborahWhitby.com.
Perfect. And we'll add the links to the show notes as well, so people can click and go. So the final question I have for you is this: if this was your last interview and never to speak again on any stage,
so morbid.
It's so final. And feel that, like, what would it be? What would that message be that you would have to tell the world and leave with your child?
Oh God. I think so if I'm speaking to Maddox is what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah.
That it would just be to love your life and fully engage. And I know I touched on this earlier, but just fully engage in your life. Just get out there and try it and do it, and don't quit existing. Don't exist, quit existing. And just biding our time here, like, stop taking up space and get out there and truly take up space with what you're called to do and your soul's calling. So
I love it. Expand the space.
Take up that space.
I know. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Deborah, for being here. I'm so blessed to have you a part of my life and part of this show, of course, so everybody else can tap into your genius. And I just really appreciate you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was so good. Thank you for the platform, and thank you for everything you do for me and my business too.
Oh, I love it. I love the opportunity to do so. So thank you again. And for everyone watching, please remember, it's just a matter of choice. So let's go get our brave on. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.